Hi everyone. So today we will be discussing the substantive procedures for the revenue, expenditure, production and payroll cycles in the audit. So there are the different procedures that are performed for the different heads of the account, different transactions statement, and we will be discussing that how we do it, how it is done, and what are the procedures to get it done. So to begin with the sales transactions and AR balance, which pertains to the revenue cycle. So there are again, if we come up to the adjacents, cover up. So if we talk about the completeness, we check the completeness in sales, accounts receivable, and presentation and disclosures. So under sales, we inspect or trace the shipping documents such as sales invoice, sales journals to ensure the completeness. Similarly, we perform the cutoff procedures for the sales. After that, we perform the reconciliation, like we compare the invoices with the price list, that the mentioned prices in the trial balance or in the financials are correct or not. After that, we recalculate the mathematical accuracy, that the calculation of the sales, gross profit, all are accurate or not. After that, we inspect, vouch. We vouch the accounts receivable journal, sales invoice, and shipping documents. So we vouch the journal entries passed. After that, the documents used in that taking the samples for that. After that, we inspect the classification has been done in the proper head or not, like proper revenue has been classified into the respective head or not. So this was the procedure for the sales. Similarly, if we talk about the accounts receivable, so we first inspect or trace the shipping documents similar to the sales, like sales invoice, then the journal entry passed for it. After that, we check the cutoff procedures, sales, cash received, sales return, if any, and then we perform the analytical procedures, that we compare with the variances, and we check the ratio analysis. All those is performed as a part of the analytical procedures. Also, after that, in the accounts receivable, the cash receipts are if there are any cash receipts subsequent to the balance sheet date, such events are inspected. Reformance or inspection of account receivable aging, AR aging is done. How old is AR in the books of account? Then the inquiry for the credit ratings are done to ensure the bad debts and the proper provision for bad debts has been made or not. Then the reconciliation of subsidiary ledger to the general ledger is done to ensure that both the ledgers, sub ledger and general ledgers are tallying with each other or not. Then recalculate the foot of the subsidiary ledger, and then confirmation of the AR is sent and received, and we ensure the valuations are correct or not from that confirmation. After confirmation is received, we inspect, and the events subsequent to the balance sheet date are not, we verify that. After that, we inquire the placing, discount, factoring of the accounts receivable if there are any such factors used. Then the inspection from the bank confirmation and date agreements from the lenience on the AR is done, and the cutoff procedure is performed. For the presentation and disclosures of the sales and AR, inspection is required as per the generally accepted accounting principles. After that, the proper footnote, proper accurate footnote has been done or mentioned or not, that is ensured, identified and ensured. After that, if there is any placing, discounting or factoring receivables, the proper guidance is mentioned in the note or not, proper disclosure has been given or not, that is checked. And then the disclosure for the understandability, like disclosure credit, due, bad debts, provision for bad debts, all this proper disclosure has been given or not. Company's policy against the bad debts and company's policy against the old dues is mentioned or not, that has been checked. So here, if we talk about the assertions, major assertions were completeness, valuation, existence, and right. In completeness, we verified that all sales and AR are recorded or not. In valuation, accounts receivable are properly valued or not. In existence, sales and account receivable exist or not. And in rights, right to collect AR is with the management or not. So these four are the major assertions that are associated with the sales and AR, and that is more focused on while auditing. So now we will discuss, just a minute, now we will discuss the confirmation of AR. Like confirmation is the evidence of the existence, like those AR exist on the financial statement or not, so that fulfills the assertion of the existence. Audit evidence via external confirmation received directly by the auditor from the customers, that is outside, that is the third party, is generally more reliable than the evidence generally by the internal entity, because the third party, the customers from who are the debtors from whom the money is yet to be collected, they will provide accurate results what is due on their end. So that tends to be more reliable, and that is the best way to check the existence and to rely on the accounts, to rely on the amount that has been disclosed, that or not. External confirmation for AR is required audit procedures except if anyone exception are there. So overall balance is immaterial. In the case the AR is immaterial, then we don't send the confirmation. Also, external confirmation will be ineffective if the based on the prior year audit experience or experience with the similar entities, response rate to the properly designed confirmation is inadequate, or response is unexpected or unreliable. So if there is any past trend that the customers are not providing the replies on that, and if that are inadequate, so in that case also it's not feasible to send the confirmation and to expect them during the audit timing. Also, the assessed RMM for AR is low, and the other substantive test is to the assessed risk. So if RMM is low, in that case also there is exception that the confirmation needs not to be sent to the customers. Auditor should maintain the control over the external confirmation, including determining the information to be confirmed or requested, generally the account balances. So, however, auditor may also confirm the terms of the agreement, contracts, or transactions. Selecting the appropriate confirming party, that is the customers. Designing the confirmation request, that is negative, positive, or blank, including determining that the requests are properly directed to the appropriate confirming party, and to provide for being the responded to directly to the auditor. Also sending the request, including the follow-up request when applicable, to the confirming party. So these are the basic things that auditor should maintain control over while relying on the confirmation, while waiting for the confirmation. There are three types of confirmation that we will be discussing: positive confirmation, negative confirmation, and blank confirmation. So negative confirmation is something where we request the customers to respond only if they disagree with the balances. So we provide them a number. We say that the entity has a 10 rupees due from you. Please confirm if you also owe 10 rupees or not. So if the party owe 15 rupees and we are asking confirmation for 10 rupees, they will provide the confirmation, because that doesn't match with the party, that doesn't match with the auditing entity. So in the case the disagreement exists between the entity and the customer, in that case customers will provide the confirmation that this doesn't agree. So this is called negative confirmation. So here if both the party agree, like customer also agree and the auditing entity also agree with the same balances, then response is not needed. For small, it is generally applicable or reliable for the small transactions. Implicit evidence, like auditor assumes that the recipients will not disregard such request. Also this is least effective. This is generally not used, and this is not much reliable for the bigger transaction and in much of the organization. Positive Confirmation is the request to respond whether customer agrees or disagrees. So positive confirmation is something where customer has to reply in either they agree or disagree. So they are bound to reply to the auditor the balances that they owe with the auditing entity. So here responses are needed for the large balances. It is much more effective. This is explicit evidence and more effective, but still there is a risk that the customer replies to the confirmation request without verifying. So there are for the few chances that customers don't verify and just they reply yes or no, no. So we have to keep an eye on that. We have to keep a proper track on this. Now the blank confirmation. So positive confirmation request that doesn't state the dollar amount on the confirmation request, that is blank, and the asks the customer to fill the dollar amount. Like auditor is sending a confirmation request to the customer, like please confirm the amount that you owe to the auditing entity. Here auditor doesn't mention that please confirm if you owe $10 or not, but they ask please confirm the amount. Auditor doesn't mention any amount on the confirmation letter and directly expect from the customer to confirm the amount that they owe to the auditing entity. So here responses are needed. It is very good for the large balances. It is explicit evidence and most effective, but may result in the lower response rate as it requires additional effort by the customers. So it is effective, but again customers doesn't want to reply on timely basis because it requires their effort. If management refuses to allow the auditor to perform the external confirmation procedures, auditor should inquire about the management responses for the refusal. So generally management doesn't have the right and management should not deny the auditor to send the confirmation. But in case they do so, auditor should inquire the auditor's management reason for the refusal and evaluate the implication of the management refusal on the auditor's assessment of RMM, including the fraud risk and the nature, action, timing of other audit procedures. Also, auditor should perform the alternative audit procedures. If the reason for the management refusal is unreasonable or auditor is unable to obtain the relevant and reliable audit evidence from the alternative audit procedures, the auditor should communicate with TCWG. The auditor should also determine the implications for the audit and auditor's opinion in this case. Evaluating the audit evidence obtained from the confirmation. So auditor may categorize the responses as follows. Response by the appropriate customer indicating the agreement with the dollar amount without exception. This is the best case. Responses indicating exception, like investigate exception to determine whether they indicate the misstatement. So if there are any exceptions, there are any differences, then it may arise to the misstatement and auditor should give more priority to this. Response deemed unreliable. So here if anything is deemed unreliable, then auditor should evaluate implications on the assessment of the relevant RMM, including the risk of the fraud and the nature, extent, timing of the other audit procedures. Also, if there are no responses, then the follow-up should be sent to the customers, and auditor should also perform the alternative audit procedures in case confirmations are not received in the expected time. And return response is much needed with the customers, which will only be documented as a part of the confirmation request. Also, confirmation exceptions, response from the customer that indicates a difference between information contained in the entity record versus information provided by the customer. This may be due to the timing differences or errors. In the case of timing differences, delay in recording of a transaction by the client or the customer. So example is that AR is recorded on 31st December for the goods shipped to the customer, may not be recorded by the customer until goods are actually received to the customer. So timing differences may be arrived because entity might record the sales, might record the AR in the books when the goods are dispatched, but the customer might not have recorded it till it is received by them. So there are certain timing differences where differences might be arise and in this case reconciliation should be performed. Also, if there are certain errors like goods are sent to the wrong customer, invoice is sent to the wrong customer, or incorrect price or quantity are mentioned on the invoice, payment applied to the wrong customer account. So these are the certain examples where errors can happen, and again in this case reconciliation is to be performed, and if any misstatement is identified, that should be corrected. Also, there can be case of the fraud where fictitious sales are recorded to overstate the revenues. Also, lapping of the AR, like misappropriation of the cash, can be there. The proper internal control, strong internal control should be in the place to mitigate this risk, to mitigate this fraud. So these are the case where the exceptions are there for the AR, and the proper reconciliation should be done if it still mismatches with the amounts mentioned in the financial statements. Now, if you talk about the after the beside existence of the AR often tested by the confirmation. So existence is tested by the confirmation, but beside that, management assertion that needs to be tested are valuation. So though confirmation provides the evidence for the existence of the AR, they provide the less relevant audit evidence relating to the recoverability of the AR. Like customer may owe but not pay, so there can be case of the bad debts. So, to test the valuation assertion, the auditor may perform the following procedures: subsequent collection and perform inspect AR aging and credit ratings. So, subsequent collection, so auditor can take on certain sample basis and check if ARs has been received or not after year end date. Also, checking the aging and the company's policy to create the provision for the bad debts once they are due after certain period of the time. The proper bad debts provision for bad debts has been made or not. Otherwise, this may represent the misappropriation of the account. To check the completeness, confirmation not so completeness, tracing, cutoff, all these are the assertions that needs to be traced. So completeness is less relevant because the risk of understatement of AR is lower. Confirmation may not provide the evidence regarding the understatement of AR because confirmation may not focus on the small dollar balances, and customers may not inform auditor if the balance per entity record is understated. So to test the completeness assertion, the auditor may perform the following procedures. Tracing of the shipping documents to the sales invoice will help test if all the goods shipped to the customer have been billed and recorded to AR or not, and to perform the cutoff test on the shipment occurring close to the balance sheet date to ensure that all the sales before the year end have been billed and recorded to AR not. So these two are the process where the completeness can be tested and can be documented. Now we will be talking about the purchase transactions and AP balances which pertains to the expenditure cycle. So for the purchases, again, if you talk about the assertion, the completeness is traced through the inspection. That is, the receiving report, vouchers, and the purchase journals are verified. After that, the cutoff procedure is performed to check whether the purchases and expenditures has been recorded in the correct accounting period or not. Then the recalculation of the mathematical accuracy is done. Inspection or vouching of the purchase journals, receiving reports are done, and then inspection is done for the proper classification of the purchases and expenditures. Similarly, for the accounts payable, cutoff procedures to search for the unrecorded liabilities at the year end. In this case, examining the cash disbursement after year end, inspecting vouchers are performed. After that, the inspecting or tracing is performed, such as receiving reports are checked. After that, purchase invoice are verified and AP journals are checked. After that, the analytical procedures are performed where ratios are verified, the variances are understood, and reconciliation vendor statement to the vendor accounts are performed. Again, reconciliation of the subsidiary ledger to the general ledger are performed, recalculation of the subsidiary ledger, and confirmation of the accounts payable. Confirmation of account payable, however, is not required. It is not mandatory, and inspection or vouching is done in that case. Also, cut-off procedure is performed where purchase, cash disbursement, and purchase returns are verified. In the case of the presentation and disclosure, inspection or examining all the required disclosure as the gap is done or not, proper footnote is mentioned or not, proper classification is done or not, and proper understandability is done or not. So these are the assertions that should be kept in the mind for AP and purchases or expenses. So broadly here four assertions are used. So completeness for purchase and AP are recorded completely or not. Valuation, accounts payable are valued at the correct amount or not. Existence, like they both exist or not. And the right, so obligation to the pay to AP means accounts payable exist or not. So these are the four board assertions which are related to the expenses and accounts payable. After that, we will also perform the search for the unrecorded liability as at the balance sheet date. So this will be the evidence for the completeness. So unrecorded liability, as there is a risk of fraud whereby the management may postpone recording of AP as of balance sheet date to the next financial year. Cash disbursement after the balance sheet date needs to be examined as to whether these payments relate to the AP that were due but not recorded as of the balance sheet date, and trace receiving reports to the purchase journal to ensure that all the goods received have been recorded or not. Confirmation of AP is not required, and this is based on the auditor's judgment. Auditor may omit the confirmation for AP as it might not be effective in addressing the completeness assertions. Also, due to the risk of understatement of AP and emphasis on the completeness assertion, auditor may confirm with the vendor showing the low dollar or zero balance owed as the balance sheet date. This is unlike confirmation of AR, where due to the risk of overstatement of AR and emphasis on the existence assertion, auditor generally confirms AR with the high balances as at the balance sheet date. So this was all about the expenditure and AP. Now we will be talking about the cash received, cash disbursement, and cash balances. This is the part from revenue and expenditure. So cash received from the revenue and cash expenses from the expenditure part. So if we talk about the receipt and expenditure, then the inspection is done to ensure the completeness, where remittance advice is checked, cash receipt journals are verified, cut-off procedures is performed, and the calculation of the mathematical accuracy is done. Reconciliation of the remittance advice to the cash receipt journal voucher packages are done. Inspection is done of the cash journals, remittance, and cash disbursement journals are checked, and inspection of the sample of the remittance advice and cancelled checks are also performed. Similarly, for the cash balance at the year end, review of the cutoff of the bank statement to verify the reconciling item on the bank reconciliation statement, and analytical procedures are performed. Similarly, inspection of review of the bank confirmation, inspection or review of the bank reconciliation, recalculation of the summary schedules, reconciliation or summary schedules to the general ledgers, and test of any foreign currency transactions are done. After that, to check the existence, inspection of the cut-off bank statement to reconcile with the bank confirmation, bank reconciliation, and bank transfer schedules, all these are verified. Also, inspection of the bank statement, cut-off bank statement, and bank confirmations are also done as a part of the year-end procedures. For the presentation and disclosures, inspection of all the, like they are mentioned as per the gap or not, proper footnote accuracy are mentioned or not, proper disclosure is done or not, all these are verified in that case. So here broadly two assertions, completeness and existence, are broad two assertions that are related to the cash. So all the cash is included or not, and they exist or not as so these two are the major assertions related to the cash. After that, we will be seeing the bank statement and the bank cutoff statement. So these are examined by the auditor. Bank cutoff statement is the bank statement for the first few days after year end, using which the auditor tests whether the outstanding checks and deposits in the transit as of the year end has been cleared or not. So this is the part of the bank reconciliation where auditors also take the bank cutoff statement for first few days to verify the pending transactions that was not recorded by the bank on the time. Bank confirmation is the bank confirmed deposit and the loan balances directly to the auditor on the entity request. Standard bank confirmation forms, auditor uses a standard form to confirm deposit account balances and loan account balances with bank and financial institution. So for the bank confirmation, there are standard templates that are used. For deposits, loans, all those are confirmed by the bank. Bank confirmation provides evidence primarily on the existence assertion, material accounts, agreement or transaction that are believed to exist but not have been disclosed by the management should explicitly request from the financial institution separately. Also, bank confirmation is generally more persuasive audit evidence than the bank statement. Bank confirmation is more reliable and more persuasively audit evidence. So if we talk about now bank reconciliation, bank reconciliation is the bank balance as per the book at the year end date. If there are any deposits in the transit that was not recorded in the bank because of cut-off procedure, then that will be added back, and if there are any outstanding checks, then that should be subtracted to reach out to the balance as per the books. So we need to reconcile to reach out to the balance as per the books, and for that the reconciliation is performed. If any interbank transfer schedule is there, then auditor should knock off all those intercompany and interbank transactions to get a complete picture and to ensure that the proper correct amount is recorded in the cash balance or not. Now talking about the inventory balance. So for inventory transactions, again it is related to the revenue. So for the transaction statement, we can use the revenues assertions that we discussed earlier. Now year-end balance for the inventory. Observation of the physical inventory counts is done. Inspection from the pre-numbered inventory tags, inventory summary reports and client counts is performed. Inspection inventory listing for the inclusion of the test counts recorded during the physical inventory observations. Analytical procedures is done. Cut-off procedure is performed. Also, to observe the inventory count, recalculation of the summary schedules, reconciliation of the summary schedules to the general ledgers, examine the inventory costing, performing the inventory price test, testing the inventory obsolescence. So these are the part of the audit procedures for the inventory. Also, to observe the inventory count, inspect, vouch, inventory summary report and client counts. Confirmation for the inventories at the location outside the entity should be performed. Cut-off procedures should be performed, or confirmation from the inventories at the location, it is already done. So in the disclosure, again it is mentioned as per the GAAP or not, proper accuracy is kept in the mind or not, and disclosed as per the understandability or not. So these are the disclosure assertions that should be followed in the case of the inventory. Now, as I said, there are 4 major assertions for the inventory. Completeness, that is all inventory are included or not. Valuation, inventory is valued at the lower of the cost or NRV. Existence, inventory exists or owed by the entity is not. And right, entity has ownership right to the inventory or not. So these are the 4 major assertions related to the inventory for the year end date, and this should be the prime focus for the auditors. Also in the inventory, we perform the physical inventory count. So it is a required audit procedures if inventory is material to the financial statements. So note that the entity personnel count the inventory while auditor only observes. So it is a duty of the management to count the inventory, but auditor needs to observe the inventory count. So auditor should be physically present there to observe that. Auditor should attend the physical inventory count unless impracticable to perform the following dual purpose test. Observe the performance of the management count procedures, evaluate the management instructions and procedures for recording and controlling the results of the entity physical inventory counting, inspect the inventory which assists the auditor in ascertaining the existence of the inventory, and perform the test count. So these are the things that auditor performs while inventory counting. Also the timing and exception. In the case of the entity has well designed and implemented perpetual inventory system, auditor may observe inventory counts before, during and after the year end of the audit procedures. However, if assessed level of the control risk is high, need to perform the observation procedures at the year end. Also, if the physical inventory count is conducted at other date, other than the balance sheet date, the auditor should additionally perform the audit procedures to obtain the audit evidence about whether changes in the inventory between the count date and balance sheet are recorded properly or not. If auditor is unable to attend the physical inventory count due to unforeseen circumstances, the auditor should make or observe some physical count on the alternative date and perform the audit procedures on the intervening physical transactions. There are certain exceptions. If it is impracticable by auditor, then he can use some other audit procedures in that case. Inspection of the client inventory. So client physical inventory summary report is there. So it is vouched in the reverse order for the existence. Pre-number tags are checked, traced in the order of the completeness, then auditor test counts, and then vouched in the reverse order for the existence. If there are any inventory that are outside the entity, if inventory is under the custody or control of a third party, is material to the financial statement, the auditor should obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the existence and condition that inventory by performing one or both of the following procedures. Request confirmation from the third party regarding the quantities and conditions of the inventory held on the behalf of the entity, and perform inspection or other procedures appropriateness in the completeness. Also, if there are goods in transit, then the cutoff procedures should be performed for that. FOB shipping point and FOB as on destination. So these are two titles for the lagging thing, and at the cutoff time, these two are checked. Now, last but not the least, we will talk about the payroll transactions and payroll balance as on the year end. So for the transaction, we will inspect the time cards and the payroll register. We will perform the cutoff procedures, reconcile the payroll expenses with the total payroll checks issued, also perform the analytical procedures, and recalculate the mathematical accuracy. For the existence, payroll register, time cards, payroll transactions should be verified, and then inspection, proper classification is done or not, all this should be performed. If there are payroll accurate balances, in that case, cutoff procedures is performed, inspection of the payroll accurate is calculated. Also, if there are year-end payroll accrual, then that is validated with the accrual amount. Also, the supporting payroll documents are used to verify the obligation the entity has the right and obligation to pay to its employees. In the disclosure, properly disclosed or not, also that is understandable to the users of the financial statement or not. So this was all about the substantive procedures for these 4 heads that we discussed today. Please let me know if you have any queries, and I will help you to solve out, and I will see you in the next chapter of audit. Thank you for staying connected, and bye-bye.